Jim fam, Curve is celebrating its second birthday this week, and its token inflation has been reduced by about 15% accordingly. What's going on? Why 15%? Well, it's actually a number that's slightly higher, and it's chosen to work out to exactly a 50% inflation reduction every 4 years, which might remind you of Bitcoin. In fact, Curve's inflation schedule is just a much smoother version of Bitcoin's inflation schedule, and it's designed to last a lot longer, 350 some years before the final curve is emitted. Now, of course, a lot of Bitcoin maxis point to its halvenings every 4 years as a potential driver of price. Does this mean that Curve is also likely to see a significant run-up every single year when this happens? Well, it's a little tough to say. The only inference I'd really be comfortable making at this point might be that Bitcoin price action following halvenings tends to happen after them. So if anything similar is happening with Curve, it's going to be happening now for the period of maybe a few months. Now, Bitcoin's a much more severe inflation reduction. Curve is more smooth, so maybe there won't even be an effect at all. Maybe it'll just be spread out over the year and too gradual to notice. It's also worth pointing out that the timeline, if you're mapping Bitcoin's timeline to Curve's timeline, we're still pretty early on. So relatively this point in Bitcoin's life cycle, you're able to get 5 Bitcoins for solving a CAPTCHA. So if we're expecting that Curve is going to be following Bitcoin's path, we might want to wait a few years till supply becomes a bit more scarce before we expect these halvenings might kick in and have any effect. There is a few things we can say, though. It does appear that there's decent evidence showing that if there's no necessarily impact of all these Curve inflation reductions with price, of which there's one data point to look at, we do know that there might be some evidence that the ratio of Curve to VECRV might be sensitive to this inflation reduction. Essentially, VECRV locking has been constant, but when Curve supply tapered off by 15%, we also saw this ratio get rebalanced accordingly. So a lower amount of Curve on the market might be a good thing for supply. Not financial advice, none of this financial advice. We're just doing educational stuff here. That being said, the bull case for Curve is not, in my mind, inflation. I'd argue it's an increase in Curve trading volume. More trading volume means more fees to VECRV holders, more demand for VECRV, reducing supply. That's kind of what we're looking for. And there's a few ways we can get to more trading volume for Curve, and they're ways that you can all help with. I can think of 3 things offhand. 1, let's get more traders using aggregators instead of going directly to like Uniswap. It's natural. You want to shop around for the best price before you make these transactions. So let's push the use of aggregators. Second, let's get more aggregators incorporating Curve, specifically Curve V2 pools. Why V2 pools? Well, we know that Curve V2 pools are much more efficient than their alternatives. So the more aggregators incorporating V2 pools, the better experience that is for a user. And finally, we need more Curve V2 pools just generally. So we've seen a lot of Curve V2 pools have been launched, but it's not always the easiest thing. It can be a bit confusing. However, Curve V2 pools are a better trading experience, just generally speaking, so we want more Curve V2 pools out there. That's my 2 cents. Hope you're enjoying Curve's second birthday, and I'll catch you around.